Hi, my name's Georgia.
And I'm Mel.
And we're the owners of Catalyst Recruitment. We spoke to Blake and Declan about our experience of having a recruitment agency for 1 year now.
All the nitty-gritty details of recruiting, business ownership, and everything in between. Stay tuned.
Welcome back to another episode of Confessions of a Recruiter. We've got Mel and Georgia from Catalyst Recruitment. Thanks for jumping on.
Thanks for having us. Yeah, stoked to be here. Very happy to be here.
Awesome. So first time, Mel, this is your first time on a podcast.
It is, must say, a bit nervous. Lots of cameras, lots of lights. But
And Georgia, you're just in your element.
yeah, kind of. I get nervous.
That's good. And you just celebrated 12 months in business, which is huge. It's a massive milestone. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah,
It's been a very fast 12 months.
it has.
It goes by way quicker than you think, hey?
Extremely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think what would be really interesting is getting a little bit of context on both of your backgrounds because you've never worked together before
No.
No.
and you've just decided to start a recruitment business together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Georgia, no recruitment experience.
Yeah.
Mel, recruitment experience.
Yeah.
Little bit of a couple of moving pieces there.
Yeah.
So, Mel, why don't you start with what your background is before starting Catalyst?
Yeah, so before starting Catalyst, I did a degree, which is where myself and Georgia met. So we met going to uni, which is amazing. And, from there, I actually worked in finance myself for a number of years. So I worked in payroll, I did accounting, accounts receivable, accounts payable, kind of all that different stuff. And that was kind of what then got me into recruitment from there. So working in payroll, you normally report into finance, HR. I reported into HR, which was where I kind of started to get a bit of a feel for it. And from there, ended up going into the industry and kind of never looked back since, which has been amazing. So and then obviously with my experience too, specializing in finance is kind of what I do because I've got that background, that skill set, worked in it. So there's not many things, most companies can throw my way that I don't have a good understanding about. So
How much recruitment experience did you have before starting your agency?
before starting, it was about 4 or so years.
Okay.
So I did come from, worked in a large agency. And then prior to that, I was also working for, so it was kind of more so in the government space, but still in recruitment. So, and that was predominantly what I looked into, and that was what kind of got the ball rolling from there. So quite fast paced, and it was really good.
Nice. And perm?
Yeah, so I've always pretty much done permanent recruitment, which is good.
So perm, finance, government, 4
Yeah.
years experience.
Yeah.
You thought, time to have a crack on my own.
Exactly. And,
Love
I'm super lucky as well. And I guess that's kind of how it came from, with myself and Georgia is a lot of my friends and a lot of my network and the people I surround myself with, they're all business owners. They're all successful business owners. And you get that real insight into, how to run a business. They give you little tips and tricks and things like that too. And obviously I've seen the success that you can get from doing that. And from, even though as scary as it is pulling the cord to be like, I'm not going to have my stable 9-to-5 income anymore. But when you see kind of the rewards you get from it, to me, I was just like, it was a bit of a no-brainer.
Yeah.
How,
Love that.
how long were the conversations brewing and what were you chatting about before you...
They were brewing for a
They've
little
been
bit.
brewing for since we met.
Yeah.
Which
Really?
has always pretty much
Yeah.
been like, I want to do something. I don't know what I want to do, but we'll
Yeah.
do a business together one day.
Yeah.
And then I've done my path. And then she's like, and I was like, well, whenever we come up with whatever we want to do, we'll just do it head first.
Yeah.
And then I think recruitment came up about a year before we started it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
And so, Georgia, what's your background? How much recruitment experience have you got? Where did you work?
I had minimal recruitment experience. Well, I'd recruited for my own businesses, and that's gone quite well. I've got all of my staff there with me for over 5 years, like 90% of them. Obviously, there's always that 10% that come and go, mainly because they get pregnant and then they don't want to come back to work and things like that, or they've gone overseas and things like that. But I've had a pretty good strike rate with hiring my own staff. So when Mel said to me, let's do a recruitment agency, I was like, well, actually, I quite enjoy that side of the business anyway. And the way that I started was I first off started with working with Australian skin clinics in their head office initially. Then I bought a clinic myself over 5 years ago. And then from there, I've kind of grown that business, and then I've really, I've kind of been with their board and their FAC and things like which is kind of like their franchise committee, which has been helping with their HR and things like that. So when Mel came to me with the idea of kind of doing an agency together, it was kind of like, oh, well, I've dabbled in it a little bit, but why not? It's a business is a business. Like, I think we could grow it. So,
Awesome.
yeah, good
Okay.
opportunity.
So just to summarize, so 5 years ago you started your own business, Australian
Yeah.
Skin Clinics.
Yeah.
You've obviously done really well there because, I mean, if longevity wise, if someone's sticking around for 5 years, especially in, I don't know much about your industry, but I feel 5 years is a really long time for that space.
Yeah.
So awesome, congrats on that.
Well, that clinic was a dog of a clinic when I bought it. It was literally like
What does that mean specifically?
It was turning over. It was broke. It was literally
Okay.
broke. The guy walked out because he went broke. So it was 2 staff. Like, the clients were very unhappy. And then I walked in, had to change all of them around to be happy. But it had a database of 7,000 people. So that was my only like, ooh, let's go. And now we've got 15 staff and booked out for 6 weeks in advance for most treatments. So
Awesome.
it's one of those things like,
All in the one location.
yeah,
Nice.
yeah.
Nice, how
Yeah.
good. Okay, so you've been running your business, you've been doing well. Mel, you've been like, oh, Georgia's killing it. Georgia, let's do a business together. Why don't we start recruitment? And so that's when Catalyst was born.
Yep.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Yeah,
Pretty
that
much.
was how it happened.
Okay, so I'm interested to learn what the conversation was about around who's going to be responsible for what.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just thinking if I was to go into business with someone, all cards on the table right now, with no recruitment experience, I'd be like, are you sure you want to do this? Can you do this? Maybe I don't want to go into business with you. You've never
Yeah.
done recruitment. You might not even like it.
Yeah.
So has there been any like guardrails around or conversations around like what if Georgia doesn't like it?
Well, the good thing is, you know, we're pretty much best friends. We talk about everything anyway. We're the two that will pretty much ring each other up randomly while driving somewhere for an hour and just have a chat. But when we first got into it, so Georgia's pretty much got all the experience when it comes to growing a business, being able to start it from scratch, knowing all the back end things. And as you guys know with a business, especially just coming from a desk job like myself, there's so many moving parts and so many bits and pieces. Marketing, no idea. Like the accounting side of it, you know, apart from what I did in my job, when it comes to your own business, it's very different. And, you know, so there's all those little different things. And personally for me, I looked at that and I was like, she brings so much experience through that business and through the other businesses she's owned. And obviously I've looked at that and I'm like, you've been able to, you know, grow that from 2 to the staff she's got now.
Yep.
And, you know, we both looked at that. And when we had the conversation, that's kind of the trajectory we're looking at for this business as well. So, yeah, and that ended up working really well. And well, it was actually the clinic space that was what got us started. So, and especially as you know, starting as a new recruitment agency, you start from no candidates, no clients, no books, absolute scratch. So to be able to leverage off the connections she's already got in those industries was, yeah, it was amazing. And that was what kind of really got us up and running to get started.
Nice.
Yeah.
So you were filling beauty therapist roles straight off the bat.
Straight off
Yeah,
the bat.
that-
Wait, were you filling roles for your own business and paying a fee?
No.
Or were you like, that's a freebie?
No. That was like, we'll just pay the Seek advertisement.
It was just a Seek ad,
Yeah,
yeah.
it wasn't anything else. It wasn't
Yeah,
like
okay.
the actual recruitment for it or anything. No, so I have a lot of friends in the industry, but then also with the clinics and things like that and being a part of those franchise councils, I'm always, like every 2 months they fly me down to Adelaide just to be with kind of the top 15 performing clinics. So of those 15, I'm very close with all of them. And then the rest of the clinics are like, oh, I know that you do recruitment, so how about you do mine? So that's kind of what got Mel to essentially quit her job. Essentially, that was the start because we had the backing of the
I've got
clinics.
runs on the board.
Yeah.
Ready to go.
Yeah,
It's all
well,
gonna
I
be
knew I
okay.
had X amount of clinics to go straight away.
Yeah.
And I knew that many were hiring at that time and I knew I could get all of them on board. So it was like, that here's the amount of money we'll have straight away. I know that Mel's really good at recruiting. I know I've already recruited in clinical and I know all the legislation behind it because Mel's mainly done finance. So we've gone, okay, well, I know the clinical space, you know recruitment. How about we just start with that first and then that at least kind of gets it all up and running.
Okay, that was going to be my next question. At what point was like the green light, the trigger moment, the light bulb to go off to go, all right, time to do it? So I guess you were like, hey, man, I got like 20 jobs here.
Yeah.
Why don't you just resign and work these 20 jobs? Is that as
Pretty
simple
much.
as it was?
That was actually pretty much
It sounds simple, but it's more like it wasn't like we had to do lots of BD calling and things like that. It was like, okay, let's just leverage all the connections first. We both also know a lot of people in business too. We had a lot of meetings to start off with and go, oh, let's leverage every friend that we have. We know that they all use recruiters anyway. They may as well use us. And then I was like, Mel's really good at recruitment. I'm starting out in recruitment, but I've also done recruitment too, especially in the clinical space. I was like, well, I know, like, say if you're even hiring a nurse in Queensland versus New South Wales for a clinic, the training's completely different. And I knew that the recruiters out there currently, because I've used them, they're not so good, and they'll send you anyone. And you'll have to teach them what you know.
Is there many recruiters that specialize in beauty?
There's a couple, but they genuinely, they'll send you someone with qualifications, but not like everyone needs the qualifications, but then they need to do a series of trainings after that to be actually qualified.
Yeah.
So in that industry, it's very intricate about knowing what someone actually needs.
And so that's your leg up, because you're on the receiving end as ultimately a client.
Yeah.
So you can go to other beauty clinics and go, hey, I know X, Y, Z, and you'd obviously present yourself far better than just a recruiter trying to wing it and learn the industry, because you can lean on that experience.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If you didn't have the 20 jobs, do you think you would have had a different approach to starting?
Probably.
Yeah, I think we definitely would have. But I guess from our perspective, we were so lucky that Georgia did already have that kind of lined up and ready to go. Of course, it would have been a lot more daunting from my perspective, coming from the stability and, you know, as you do when you come from like a large agency, you've got that flow, you've got the influx, you've got it sitting there. And let's be honest, you don't really need to work too hard for it, because a lot of it is just sitting there, or will flow through. Or say, you know, you're sitting next to a colleague, they're like, oh, I got a job in your realm, there you go. So it is very different, but it did help a lot knowing that we had that sitting there ready to go.
Well, even a tough part would have been for you, Mel, not just coasting off the work that Georgia's got.
Yeah.
And actually building out a new finance division.
It was, It was a complete desk from pretty much absolute scratch. And it took a lot of hard work. But what we also did is we got really lucky through a lot of relationships we've got as well. It was specifically one of Georgia's relationships. We ended up, technically purchasing another business within Catalyst, and that's what's running through Catalyst now. And we purchased, the database and a few other things.
So I'm really interested to learn about this.
How did this happen?
What was the thought? Where did
A friend
it come
of
from?
mine.
How did you price it?
Yeah. So
What's the ROI? Okay, well, we'll go one at a time.
yeah, so a friend of
How did
mine,
this come about?
she was going into tech, and her recruitment agency had done quite well in Sydney already. And then, so she kind of approached me and was like, look, I know you guys are starting out. I know that like you've got your foot up already, but would you like an accelerated foot up? And it'll cost you, but I can tell you it'll be worth it, because instead of calling through Seek advertisements and things like that to try and get phone numbers, your phone numbers are here right in front of you. All you got to do is close them and actually do a good job from that point. So I've got a bit of money from investments. Mel has a bit of money from investments. We already had a budget that we were kind of going off when we wanted to start the business. And that budget was either going to go into a fit out of doing a space where we like hire people, things like that. But instead we were like, no, we'll have everyone work from home. We'll keep that money there in case an opportunity comes by. Turns out the opportunity did in about December last year. And then we kind of just negotiated from there and bought the database. But obviously a database is a database. Like same with the clinic. You have a database, but what you do with it is completely different.
Okay, so let me ask you some questions around this. How do you value someone's database? How did you value it? Were you just like, oh, look, I'll give you this much for it? And then it was like a backwards and fro of like perceived value?
Yeah.
Or was there some sort of valuation calculation done?
It was a valuation done by an external company, as well as we went through the database and went, look, from this year back, we don't want those people because they're probably out of the job anyway, all the HR directors and things like that. And then the relevancy of the companies and things like that. So it was like, we're in healthcare, finance, we wanted a little bit of mining. We had someone already in Sydney, Jason, who does engineering and aerospace. It's a very niche kind of industry. So we were like, we'll take those clients. Then we had like physios, where we've got Jake doing that. So we wanted like physios, we wanted healthcare, we wanted finance, and we wanted just those industries. We didn't want to go, okay, we want like, I don't know, tech and things like that, because we were like, well, we don't have staff for it yet, so why would we buy that? So we built it based on those.
How big was it?
Yeah.
3,000 companies.
Companies.
Yeah, companies.
Okay,
Yeah.
so potential clients.
Yeah, client list. Yeah.
And was this database, did they trade with the previous agency, or was it just data?
No, they were working with that agency.
Oh, okay. So
yeah,
these
so
were 3,000 trading clients.
she was essentially
Oh, wow.
going into tech. She'd gotten a lot of funding and things like that from a new tech project. And she was going, look, I've got a ton of money from tech coming in and I need to get this startup off the rungs. So how about I sell you my database and my pretty much the business, but under wraps. Like, she didn't really want to make it like a public thing. And then she would kind of email all of those clients and be like, these people are now potentially looking after you. If you would like to work with them, completely up to you. If you don't, totally fine.
Is this that girl in Sydney that's big on social media?
No, not big on socials at all.
I find that really fascinating.
Yeah.
Because that's a pretty big gamble.
It is.
Depends
but
how much
also,
you pay for it.
Yeah. It is. Like, we paid a fair bit for it, but also, like, I've been kind of friends with her a bit, like, for a while. So I've seen her business grow. I've seen how many people work with her. I've seen the relationship she has with her staff. And, like, she retained her staff quite well and things like that too. So it was kind of a no-brainer
And it was
by
all
the
perm.
end of it. There's a bit of temp in there, but it's not, that's a bit in the healthcare side, but not massively. Yeah,
When
mainly
did you buy this database?
December last year.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right, so it's
Yeah.
been 7 months now.
Yeah.
Have you got a return on your investment yet?
Yeah.
We have. It
Awesome.
was literally within the first 2 months.
Well, the good thing about her is she was like, here's your top 10 to call them first, you'll make it back.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Which
What a legend.
Which was great.
I know, which
well,
was very handy.
she had no interest in like not doing that because she's going into tech. It was completely
Tech
different.
recruitment or a tech business?
no tech business. So
Gotcha.
yeah, so she was like, that's now my field. I have the investment. She obviously got cap raising money and things like that to go into it. And so she had to go head first into that and was like, look, I either sell the business completely, but I don't really want to do it all publicly and things like that. I just want to just go into this.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
I've probably got bulk clients, like legacy clients that I've got that you can buy off me if you want.
Yeah, well, look, we're
What
always
what
open to it.
industries can I scrub up for you? Wow. Okay. All right. So, so you went through this process, like you went through a due diligence, I'm assuming, to
Yeah.
make sure it's all above board.
Yeah.
So from when she approached you to say, hey, buy my database, to when you took control of the database and started working the database, like what was that timeline like? Was it like a quick
Maybe like
30 days?
Yeah, 4 weeks.
Yeah,
Cool.
it was pretty
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Plus,
That's
it was
really
in
interesting.
December. Like, you're not really doing a lot of recruitment end of December.
Yep.
So we had a bit of time to kind of think about it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Most companies are on holidays then anyway. So we were like, okay, we'll have some time to ponder.
Yeah.
And then, yeah.
Awesome. So, Georgia, I want to know what your first 12 months experience is like in recruitment. Tell me what it's like right now being a recruitment director. Are you on the tools? Like,
Yeah.
what's the okay? So
Yeah.
you're doing BD.
Yeah.
You're finding your own candidates.
Yeah.
You're placing your own candidates.
Yeah.
You're a full blown recruiter.
Yeah. Well, we have obviously like jobs coming in
Yeah,
because
yeah,
of
yeah.
the clinics and things like that. But I feel like there's more of a rush, like closing someone that you don't know either.
Yeah.
So that's really fun. Plus, we give the BD list and things like that too. We have BD callers that just do those lists. So we kind of throw ourselves into the deep end and go, all right, although we've got this big client base that's in this database, how about everyone else uses that because that's the easy way. We'll do the hard way.
Yeah.
And we'll go through and find new clients because you've always got to find new people. That's just always what you've got to do in business. So I find that like I get a bit of a thrill from it. It's fun.
It's a bit of a drug.
Yeah.
So it's a drug.
It kind of
It's a
is.
buzz.
Like it's a
Yeah,
kick.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
it's sales. I mean, the clinic is all sales. It's like even you wouldn't think that the girls are on the phones all day, every day in a clinic. They are.
Are they?
Yeah.
It's just a little sales
That's
house.
the only way that you get clients in the door. Like you need to
What's
make
the
sure
clinic do again?
like
Injectables.
injectables,
So
laser,
they're like,
skin.
hey, look, geez, your Botox, I think you need a touch up. When are you coming back
It's
in?
more like we know
I saw
that
you the other day down the
Yeah.
street, and boy, oh boy, did you not look that great.
Those crow's feet
You
were
need to come
crying.
back.
not so much the injectable side, but it's more like we have a lot of prepaid services. So say you buy 6 treatments of laser or 4 needlings, things like that. People buy it, they'll do one, then they forget. So you need them in regularly so that they actually get a good result. So then they keep coming back. Because if you get them in once every 6 months, they're not going to have a good result. Therefore, they're not going to come
Yeah,
back.
my laser lady was a savage. She'd be on point all the time.
What are
Yeah, you
getting
have
laser-
to.
Come back
What are
in.
you getting laser for, mate?
Oh, just my chest.
Oh, okay.
It's all coming out.
Didn't know that about you.
But yeah, she was the most diligent person at following up
Yeah.
all the time.
Which all the girls are trained like that. So that's like with us when Mel's like, oh, you got a follow-up call, you got to do this. I'm like, oh, this is like a clinic. It's the same thing. You got to follow up constantly. I mean, it's different because you're following up candidates and businesses, but I feel like candidates are similar to clients. You just got to follow them up, make sure they're happy all the time. And then clients are more like, well, the companies are like, well, you just got to keep them happy and make sure that you're doing a good job.
Okay, so if there are any recruiters out there that are interested to find out what it's like to have a VA support them in their role, whether that be to bill more, reduce tasks that they don't enjoy doing, or be a more effective recruiter in their niche, then we definitely recommend reaching out to the Outsource People or TOP. Reach out to them, inquire on how they can implement a VA in your agency and to support you. And if you mention ex-recruiter or Confessions of a Recruiter, they will give you a 13% discount off your bill per month on this VA that will allow you to scale your business, scale your desk, and to bill more and make more money. So go reach out to the Outsource People, say Confession sent you, get your discount, and see what is possible. We're in the business of helping people start recruitment agencies, right? And
yeah.
the one challenge that we see when people start their agency is they feel major imposter syndrome, and they're like, what the hell am I actually doing right now? Am I going to make this, is this all real? What like the difference between someone starting their business and before doing their first deal, they're just like, they're kind of skittish a little bit, trying to make sure they can get their first placement and make it real. Did you ever, both of you, ever have like imposter syndrome around, is this a real life thing, or what's?
There was like, probably I was obsessed with getting the systems and processes perfect.
She's
before we
definitely
did
a
it.
tech whiz. It's not me.
I love because I'm like,
yeah.
if we're going to do it, we're going to do it right. And if we do it this way, then we need to make sure that 10 people could do it that exact same way. So if we're doing notes, we have to do it so that it's like in shorthand in a way that like, if we had 10 staff, they all could read it, or the systems that 10 other people could pick it up next week. So say if we hired someone 2 weeks from now, like it'd be like click, 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 they're hired, done, you're in. Like I like doing that, making the systems. So I feel like initially Mel was like, all right, first day one, onto BD, let's go. And I was like, no, you got to set up the business. Like we need infrastructure, we need CRMs, we need like software going into here. We need to make sure there's marketing channels. We need an agency to like marketing agency. We need funnels. We need this, and this. And Mel was like, what? Okay, well, all right. And I was like, how about you do that and I'll do this and we'll get on top of that. And then we'll also do the clinical kind of recruitment first. So I feel like that was a bit of an imposter thing, but it was kind of like OCD where I like to make sure that it's very, very compiled systems and processes so that like anyone could pick up the handbook of what we've done and do it the next day.
Yeah.
Because it's easy to get caught in that trap where you don't actually do the work as well.
Yeah. Oh, so easy.
Have you found any success from funnels and advertising campaigns in recruitment, as much as like injectables is obviously social media led?
Yeah, to be honest, like we've even tried out a couple marketing agencies. They're not good.
They're never good.
We wasted a lot of money there, which is why the database, we were like, well, marketing agencies don't work clearly in this industry. So how about we just do like a bit of SEO AdWords, that's it. and then we'll just do like by the database as well, and then we'll just hone
Direct
into
outreach.
Yeah, direct.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's the biggest ROI, phone calls and emails.
literally.
Yeah, doesn't cost you anything to pump out emails. I mean,
No.
there's a lot of people that try and overcomplicate the sales process in recruitment.
Yeah.
And a lot of people try and avoid the phone and the direct outreach and like come to me and leads and all this kind of stuff, which is nice to have. But if you're heavily relying on, I don't know, someone clicking a Facebook ad to apply for your job, or a hiring manager to look at an Instagram story to give you a job on, then you're not
You'd
gonna
be very
appreciated.
stuck. I don't think that would work at all.
No, but a lot of people do it, like these automation funnels and all this kind of stuff. Like there's sometimes that you can get one or two drips and drabs through there, but there's nothing more powerful than just having a list of people and picking up the phone and going, hey, this is where I'm from. This is what I do. These are the outcomes I can achieve.
Yeah.
Are you interested? No. Okay, cool. Call the next person.
Yeah.
And that's all it is. And you just rinse and repeat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is that generally the BD strategy for
Yeah.
both of you?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I guess we've got a fair few different kind of avenues we do. Obviously, we've got Alison. She just literally just does business development for us too.
How did you like convince someone to do that?
Well,
It's actually my mum.
Really?
So she does it for my brother's business as well.
Your mum is
Yeah.
a BD machine.
Oh,
she is a machine.
Really?
we cannot close anything compared to Alison because
She's like close. Like
it's
she's
wild.
insane.
You watch her in a room, and I'm just like, damn, like literally, it's insane. Like,
What did she do? Her career?
So
Just BD?
she's been pretty much a BD / like client caller for my brother and his business for I'd say 10 years now.
What's his business?
It's like development, property, things like that. So she does that side of the business for him, and he's essentially made her an incredible closer. And then I was like, hey, Mum, like, I know you have a lot of hours in the day. Like, would you like to do more for us? And she's like, I don't need the money, and I don't even need it from your brother either. But like, oh, my kid's okay. Like,
Oh my God. Imagine your mum being real good at BD.
Oh, mate.
Yeah.
Jeez,
it's
I'd love to
epic
get my
because
mum on the
obviously you
tools.
trust her. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
there would be such a work ethic that goes
yeah.
far beyond
anything.
getting the money.
yeah,
So you can really rely on that.
yeah, 100%.
Well, we've kind of noticed as well, funnily enough, when she is doing BD, because she is obviously, a bit older, she's in her late 50s. Funnily enough, when you go to call a business, you've got a woman kind of in their late 50s as well. The likelihood of someone being like, sorry, I don't have time, compared to actually listening to them is very different.
yeah.
Oh, so when we build our BD team, we just need late 50 mums.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Or
pretty
early
much.
50s, she'll probably hate you
Early
for
50s.
saying
Yeah,
that.
no. So Alison's, yeah.
Oh, so that's
She'll
actually
be like, excuse me?
that's actually a really, really good point, because I got BD called maybe a year ago from probably someone in their 50s or 60s.
Yeah.
And I was shocked to be getting a BD call from someone in that age bracket. And she was selling like Lifesaver tickets or something. And I'm just sitting there like, whoa, man, you are ripping it right now. And
Yeah.
like, you've obviously lived this big life, and here you are just giving me a BD call. I feel like I can't hang up on you right now.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. You feel like you can't hang up on the person, but also getting someone who's good at that age as well is insanely hard.
Yeah.
Because also, like, they're not typically, like, if they were good at sales, usually, like, when they were younger, they're not usually willing to do it when they're older. They're usually wanting something more chill. Whereas my mum's like, nah, I'm hustle. Let's go. Let's go.
That's awesome.
She loves she's literally like, yep, another wrong on the board. Yep, another wrong on the board. She's like, we've got that type of family unit where we're all a bit like that.
Yeah.
And I think that we definitely get that from parents. So
Yeah.
so it's just incredibly lucky that we've got someone who's
Okay, so you got
good.
mum doing your BD.
Yeah. Hey,
imagine
what
you-
else is happening?
You cranking out calls for Tommy and Elsie when
Oh,
they're
mate.
in their first year of business.
And I'll tell you what, I would go hard too. I'd go, let me show you a thing or two, kids.
Oh, we just send out AI messages now, Dad.
yeah, true. I just send out a text message, BD, Dad. Okay, so you got mum doing BD. That's a fascinating, awesome story. Thanks for sharing that. Who else have you got at Catalyst?
So literally myself and Georgia, we look after a lot of the BD as well. So, and then we'll just pass on a lot of work
Yeah.
to staff. And then from there, the
Yeah.
staff also do their own BD.
Oh, they do their own BD.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
how do you
Yeah.
go with keeping them level-headed and not showing gratitude to getting jobs. Because I've been stuck in that before, and I'd be the BD person giving everyone jobs, and I'd be like, "Where's my jobs?" Like,
Yeah,
oh, mate.
look, it's a fine line, I think, because like you got to give them probably 20%, and then you're like, okay, you do the rest.
Yep.
Here's like enough to get you like by
Going,
and get you going and get you the confidence to keep, I don't know, doing your job kind of thing. And then the rest is up to you.
I'd be interested to understand what made you want to hire somebody. Like, was there a certain trigger in the business where you're like, all right, we've got 100 grand in the bank account, we can afford someone's salary
mean,
for
mate?
3 months?
Mum had like 50 jobs for everyone to recruit. They couldn't.
yeah. We need to hire more people. Mum's killing it. Was it
Mum's like, don't let these clients down. I signed them up.
Yeah, mom would be like, excuse me? That was so much effort.
Yeah. Was there any kind of strategy around hiring, especially with, you know, staff in Sydney?
Yeah.
Like how did you kind of come to that conclusion that you're just going to hire anywhere, and what were those triggers to hire?
We mainly put the ads out in the main city locations that we would ideally want. It was Melbourne, Brisbane, Sydney, also Gold Coast. And then we just hired the top talent that came through. So there was no rush
Experienced
to it.
recruiters?
Yeah. Yeah, they're all very experienced.
How
at
much you
least
paying them?
5 years. A bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good comms.
I feel like
but
good
also
recruiters
a fair
are
bit.
really hard to come by.
They are.
Yeah.
But, well, I guess as well, from our perspective, we don't have overheads of an office. So they're getting a really good commission cut of everything they earn. And that's, I guess, essentially how we were able to entice them a little bit more. A lot of them, they love to run their own desk, which is very similar to kind of, I guess, what we do anyway.
Yep.
So, you know, they were like, oh, I get to completely work from home. I pretty much run my own desk and I keep a really good percentage of it at the end of the day. So that was kind of essentially how we were able to tap into that market. Because you're right, they're really expensive and they do want a lot. But I guess also another thing is a lot of companies, you know, they're wanting more people in the office, whereas, you know, a lot of people still want that freedom. So we were kind of able to tap into that little market, which helped out a bit.
Yeah.
What is challenging though with having remote staff is being able to create a culture for your business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What strategies or processes have you got in place to help create a good culture where no one's actually sitting next to each other?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we've got our Monday meeting, and then we've also got, well, we're always talking all the time. So and then also like, it's kind of been like, oh, we'll do like an event and things like that. To be honest, we haven't done one yet because it's only been like 6 months of having them anyway. Yeah. But so far, and they all have families, all of them. So
Okay.
we're like,
They're
would
all
you rather?
older.
Perfect.
Yeah, and we're like, would you rather
stable,
yeah.
secure?
Yeah.
Would you rather a big bonus, or do you want to go do an event all together and we'll fly you all in? And they're like, big bonus, thank you.
Yeah.
So it's more like that, and they kind of run their own show. That they are older, so it's not like you want it. It's not juniors.
Is it challenging not managing older people? Like, what's the relationship like there?
It's actually, I guess we're pretty lucky. Like, Georgia's obviously got a lot of experience managing staff. So for me personally, I, you know, looked to her a lot for that guidance and kind of how to go about it and things like that too. But I guess essentially it's just kind of, as you do with anyone, it's just building that rapport, just having that conversation with them. And before they start anyway, we've got a good idea of what they're after, what they're looking for. And because we've hired people that are a bit older, they're pretty much after the job security, the stability. They want to be home with family, so they've got that balance. And so it's kind of just worked pretty well from there, really, which is good.
And what's
Cool.
the expectation for them to bill?
Yeah.
So
their expectation.
yeah,
It's
well,
like their salary per month, and then they'll get their bonus.
yeah.
So generally, like my guys, they used to have a 2 times threshold, and then they got a percentage of anything above that.
Yeah.
Is it something similar, or?
It is. So it's technically like their salary, say for instance, like got one on 100,000. So it's that salary. And then technically we've got the bonus structure and we've kind of tiered it.
Tiered,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
So
like,
if you make 75% of that, it's still like a little bonus. But if you make your actual salary, then it's like decent.
Mate, they're
very
getting
good.
paid really well.
Yeah.
Whoa, they are lucky. If you're listening to this right now, staff,
I know.
you are getting looked after.
I know, but I guess as well, we are kind of tapping into that. It is a very niche market, like it's a small little market, but also I guess as well, these are people, you know, that could technically go and do it themselves as well, but they're wanting the stability still of kind of that 9 to 5
Yeah.
and, you know, the constant roles coming in and things like that too. So I guess it's essentially kind of a bit of a give and take game is what we've got at the moment, because obviously they're highly skilled. Like Jake, for instance, he's like 30 years experience. It's pretty wild.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
So,
and even Jason, he's in aerospace. So like finding someone in aerospace is hard.
Yeah.
And someone who's done aerospace recruiting for, I think it was like 6 years he's done it.
Yeah.
Like he obviously knows every single candidate in the market. He's recruiting from NASA. So you're like, okay, but I definitely don't know anyone to call there. So
He's recruiting for NASA.
well, he picks people
Previously,
from NASA. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
where does he place them? Like, where do NASA workers usually go?
Who's the competitor of NASA?
There's a lot of rockets and things like that in
Tesla.
Australia. There's a lot of rockets.
Yeah,
a lot
SpaceX.
of, they're not in Oz. But there's rockets in Australia. Then there's also like a lot of mine sites and things like that need them for drones and whatnot to go through the mine sites. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
True.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, so you've just done a recent kind of hiring blitz. You've got a few people on. They're about 6 months in.
Yeah.
Everything going well. What are the challenges like with new staff?
I mean, we've gone through two already. So
Yeah.
Well, like we've kept.
As in, you've gone through two, as in two haven't made it?
We've got 5. We've had 2 that didn't make
Previously.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
That's a decent strike rate, because normally it's I'd say, less than 50-50.
Honestly, it was our first 2 hires. So yeah.
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 You learn a lot about people, hey?
Yes.
And about yourself.
And also
Definitely.
like how much people will lie and say that they're doing something, and then you check the inbox and you're like, you're not doing that.
Yeah. That's going to happen forever until the rest of time.
It's like that in any business though.
Yeah.
You just got to figure out who you can trust straight away, and if you can trust them and they actually follow through with everything that they do and they have a good track record of it for X amount of time, you can usually trust they'll keep doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny, like when I, like in the past, I've had consultants, I'm like, mate, you're never on the phone, you're not very proactive, like what's going on? And they go, oh mate, I called like 25 people yesterday, blah, blah, blah. And I don't ever normally put people on the spot because, you just want to trust them.
You do. You
Yeah.
want
And
to
I
give them that trust.
I turn around, I'm like, show me a call log. And he's like, what? I'm like, show me a call log. And he gets it out, full confident. I'm like, there's 2 calls. And he's like, is there? Yeah. That's so weird. I don't know where those other calls are. I'm like, you're fucking kidding me, right? He's like, that's so weird. I definitely did 25 calls. Don't know why there's only 2 in my log. I'm like, bro, die with the lie, hey? Jeez. And people do it all the time when they're not doing the right thing. So it's actually
swear black and blue that they did it. And you're like,
even though they've been
point of
literally
that?
caught out. Yeah,
Actually.
But that's just human nature, and sometimes I've found, especially with recruiting people for my own business, is someone could actually be fantastic at what they do, but with me it's just not their time to click and take things seriously and get themselves to the next level. Like I've had super talented people come through Vendito that just never made it through probably no fault of mine, no fault of their own, but they're just not ready to commit.
Yeah, that's
Commit
so
to doing
fair.
the job. And it's like, bugger, mate. Like, you're actually going to be so good. You haven't been good here, unfortunately. But I reckon the next place you go, you're going to have a fresh start, and you're probably going to actually do really, really well because you've had this initial experience of, I've probably let myself down here, but time to take it seriously at my next place. So they're just the trials and tribulations of hiring people, seeing them go, then they go kill it somewhere else, and you go, oh, well, I wish that was for me. But anyway, all the best to them. So, that'll certainly never end. What's the plan of attack moving forward? So you mentioned before you want to kind of replicate 15 staff at Catalyst. Is that the kind of the goal, or what's the goals, over 2-5 years? What does that kind of look like?
Yeah, well, we'd like to kind of grow it to the point that we need managers managing the staff as well. And then we'd like to manage the managers. But then we'd also like to keep on the tools, because you kind of have to in order to kind of keep on top of your game.
Yeah.
So that everyone else knows that like you can
Still got it.
you still got it, and you can still step in at any time and be like, you know what, this is how you do your job. That's the same thing for the clinic. I used to like run that place for 2 years straight. So at any point I could go in there and be like, here I am. And let's manage, let's go. So then like no one can get anything by you if you're always on top of what you are doing. And I think we really want to get it to the point that we've got divisions where we've got, okay, here's finance, but we've got a fair few people in there. Here's engineering, here's a fair few people in there. Here's healthcare, there's a few in there. So we've only kind of got one person per section at the moment, or two in healthcare, which is me and Jake, not Jason. And then, so we kind of want it so it's got like divisions and then managers over those. So however that kind of works, I guess we'll grow the teams based on the talent that kind of comes through.
So are you planning to just stick with the whole remote business strategy, or at what point would you go, let's get a bougie office and all get together?
I don't know. Well, I guess as well, Georgia's had that experience of having an office space, and obviously, you know, having that space, the overheads and everything associated with that as well. I think it's just a decision we've both made where we think we're just going to keep it completely remote.
Yeah, you have things like
Saves
COVID and
so
you got
much
20
money.
grand in rent
Yeah.
coming out and you're not
Yeah.
even using it.
Yeah.
So then I was like, well, we may as well spend that money on the wages and the commissions and things like that,
Yeah.
and BD callers and whatnot, and just grow the business. And there's plenty of tech companies out there that don't even have a head office. They literally like have hundreds of staff and no one goes anywhere each day. They just stay at home or they go to a co-working space. So we're thinking, well, how about we leverage just the work from home environment and keep going down that track? And if it keeps working, keep going.
Yeah, nice. Because
Yeah.
we always, I think there's 74 recruiters that are associated with X-Recruiter across the country.
Yeah.
And the difference in performance for ones that work in the office or ones that work from home is unparalleled.
Yeah. So feedback-wise, the recruiters that we see, I don't know, there's some outliers. There's definitely some outliers that work from home and just absolutely rinse it. And you're like, dude, how do you wake up
Be a
every day?
handful.
Yeah, and just keep going that hard when you're sitting in your spare room. But there is actually, we're seeing some sort of pattern where when people are in the office, they tend to perform, they get up to speed quicker and faster. I guess that's probably not a revelation.
Yeah.
Makes a lot of sense. But the office environment seems to work really well with some recruiters for sure. You just got to find the recruiters who
It's the
wanna work
senior
from home.
ones. That's what, like with our first two hires, they were more junior. Therefore, they worked from home, but they also worked with us a fair bit. Like they had to be in the office with us to kind of train them. Because I've got an office as well. So we just went there and we trained them there. But it's more just like the senior ones we've found. Obviously, they only need a little bit of training and then they just kind of want to do their own thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I think it's more keeping it senior for us, Otherwise, it's just going to be too hard to do work from home and then have juniors because you can't train them.
Nah, so you two are the youngest in the team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but that's the same for my clinic. I think I've got one team member that's younger than me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice. That's probably a blind spot that I've had in Vendito. I hired one person that was older than me once, and it was a shit show. And it was so
Why
bad.
though? Why was it bad?
Oh, full massive ego. Like,
Oh.
mate, listen here, little Blakey. I've got a lot of life experience. I'm like, bro, you've been in recruitment for literally 3 days. Just let's go through the training process first. He's like, but mate, I've been around for a long time, so I know how people work. And it just didn't go very well. So ever since, I've just hired people that are younger than me with no experience and trained them up myself.
It's fair.
But the sheer amount of effort it takes to hopefully get one to stick is ridiculously difficult. And so perhaps maybe if I had my time again, I think maybe the hiring older, more stable, mature people might actually be a better hiring strategy, because you don't go through the, someone walks through a 23-year-old walks through the door after a weekend and they've got big pupils and you're like, bro, what are you doing?
Well, even
nothing?
like we usually go like someone who's stable, they've got a family, typically they've got a mortgage too. They have to keep a consistent income to sustain the lifestyle that they have. Sometimes they're facilitating their partners, their kids, all the rest. So typically, even in the clinic space, if someone's got a family to support and they're not just thinking about themselves, they're going to be a lot more stable. They're not going to go to Europe for 3 months a year. And they're also going to just be like, okay, I've got to put my kids through school. Let's just focus on adult things.
Yes.
And I'm not going to move states just at a whim because I can't. And I'm pretty stable usually. That's the case.
100%. I wish I thought
There's
about
always
that.
outliers, but
I wish I
like,
thought about that when I started. I was like, how old are you, mate? 19. I reckon I could make something of you.
you just want like mini Blake.
Yeah,
That's
pretty
what
much.
you're wanting. You're like,
Pretty
I want
much.
to do this.
Yeah, I think I had a soft spot for like people that are off the rails. Because when I was younger, I was probably a little bit off the rails myself. And so I'd see someone that's just a little bit of a rat bag and I'd be like, oh, mate, I'm going to give you the best opportunity you've had in your life. And then they just let you down and you're like, oh, okay.
They don't appreciate it.
Yeah, and then you just go again. So yeah, geez, I could talk for hours about that, but no, that's good. Okay, so you want to scale, you want to get managers,
Yeah.
you want to manage
Yeah.
the managers.
Yeah.
How are you going managing at the moment? Who's got the management responsibilities right now? Is it like
Predominantly
50-50?
more Georgia.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, but day to day, you also manage a lot too. So, like, if there's any questions and things like that when it comes to clients and whatnot, Mel's like the go-to because obviously she's worked in recruitment for longer than me. So then, but when it comes to just managing, like, keeping on top of things and like
The
systems.
expectations, you know, those
Yeah.
harder conversations. I'm a bit of the soft one and Georgia's the hard
I
nut
was like,
to crack.
can you have that conversation?
I'm like, do you want to have that conversation about the KPIs? And she's like, yeah, I'm onto it. And I'm like, okay.
See, I enjoy that. I don't find it a hard conversation whatsoever.
Good
It's
cop,
just
bad
easy.
cop, mum
Yeah.
and
Cop,
dad.
bad cop. Mum and dad just...
Yeah, Mel's the one that they go to and they're
Yeah.
like, so I broke up with my boyfriend. And I'm like, don't tell me that. I don't care.
Then Georgia calls. It's like, oh shit, Mel said something to Georgia.
But I'm so fine with that because I'm like, in a business, like we even do that with the clinic. Like it's like I've got my manager there, my 2IC. So like she'll go, hey, can you have that really hard conversation? Like I don't think I can have that hard conversation because you
Too
need to
close,
be you need to
maybe?
be the bad cop. Like
Yeah.
you
You're a
need
bit of gunpowder.
Yeah, they
Bit of
come to me
gunpowder.
when like they want to confide in me and things like that. And she's really good at like managing and keeping those expectations. But when it comes to like hiring and firing, things like that, yeah. I'm totally fine with having those conversations. It's like,
Has there
easy.
ever been like any sort of sense of, oh, well, you've got no recruitment experience. Like, why are you telling me how many calls I should be making? Is there anything like that or?
No, we've never had anyone do that. But I think purely because a lot of people, like, they know the background of, you know, what Georgia's done with her other businesses, how she started, what she's, you know, created there as well. And we're both very present in the company.
Yeah.
So, you know, we're there day in, day out. We're across pretty much absolutely everything. So not much can get past us. But, you know, I think it's just having that, you know, finger on the pulse essentially. So we've never really had any issues with any of that stuff.
Well, that's good. That's positive. Because
Yeah.
sometimes if it's not framed correctly from the outset, it's really
Yeah.
hard to get the buy-in. Like I've experienced, not for me personally, because I've always been on the tools myself, but when I've had, you know, managers come in and they haven't done what they're asking others to do,
Yeah.
people kind of just turn around and go, you want me to do 30 cold calls? Like, you do 30 cold calls.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
I think you always got to lead by example.
Exactly.
Goes with
Exactly.
every
And
business.
well, that was the experience that Georgia has had with the clinic anyway. So we're super lucky, you know, Georgia's already, you know, as she started that from scratch, she made a lot of mistakes in that business that we were able to streamline and not make in this business. Because she's like,
100%.
I did this wrong in this. Now we don't do it in this business. So we were able to, you know, kind of realize quickly of what to do and what not to do.
That even goes with the juniors thing. I started out for the first year, I just kept hiring juniors and then they'd stay for 6 months in the clinic and then it was like, oh, now they're on to the next career pathway because they weren't that invested in it in the first place. And then I've like ever since I'm like, I just do senior, only like not seniors, but like senior technicians
Experience.
and things like
Yeah.
that, making
Yeah.
sure that they're actually like, this is the career that they want in the first place. They've already decided that, that's for sure. So now we're just making sure it's the right job fit.
For
from
sure.
here.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's smart.
What's coming for us?
I was just saying. So what we've got to kind of wrap things up and put a really nice kind of ending on the potty, we generally like to do a couple of things, ask you a few questions. Are these questions from our previous guest?
Yep.
Oh, awesome. Okay, so what we like to do is every guest that we've got that come on, we get them to ask the next guest a question.
Well, That's
So,
cool.
so what we'll do at the end of this as well is we'll get you both to ask our next guest a question, and then we'll ask them, and it'll be kind of like this really cool mashup of all of our guests basically talking to each other.
Yeah,
So
love that.
yeah, so that's the strategy. All right, do you want to take it away?
What's the toughest lesson you've learned since working for yourself?
Ooh, the toughest lesson. It's always hard to think of just one because there's so many lessons, I guess.
There's a lot.
Yeah, especially as a new business owner. The toughest.
Mine personally would be fire quickly, not slowly, because it's expensive and it ruins your entire business and everything that you've built if you do it slow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Love that.
That's my personal takeaway from both Catalyst and the clinic. Yeah.
Yeah, I do
Yours is
definitely.
What about budgeting?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
better not spend too much. I got no salary.
Yeah. Well, exactly. I guess it's so hard. Yeah, it's so hard to just pick one. There's
Yeah.
a lot, but yeah, like Georgia said, I guess essentially you learn as you go too. But yeah, bit of a
What
hard-
is it? Jeez. I've never had so much suspense before. I'm like, is she going to say it? Is she going to say it?
Yeah, I honestly, yeah.
What's the hardest lesson?
Okay, the hardest lesson.
What was, did you ever have, this might be a little easier.
No shit.
What was your oh shit moment?
I guess probably, when you first do come out of, I guess for us too, we had some issues with tech, getting everything up and running, and that was really hard. And you sit there and you're like, oh shit. And also, when you come out of sitting in a job where a lot of stuff's given to you, and then finally you get the rug pulled out from under your feet, you're sitting there and you're like, well, you sink or you swim.
Yeah.
And, it's really, it's not easy. It's not for the faint-hearted. It's long hours. And, but yeah.
Love that. That's
Yeah.
what you should have said at the start. That was awesome. Yeah, you're like, yeah.
Guys, it's my first podcast.
No, that was awesome. Well, Georgia and Mel, thank you so much for joining us on Confessions of a Recruiter podcast. Where can people find you if they want to reach out and work from home and get a big base salary?
Come to Catalyst Recruitment. So we're on Instagram, Facebook. There's also our website too. So there's also website forms. Feel free to pop your CV in there. We'll gladly look at it. If you're a candidate, come through. If you're a client, even better.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for having us on the podcast. It's been
No
really
worries.
fun.
Yeah, I really
Thank you.
enjoyed the combo.
Really, really interesting questions too. It's been really, really different than what I expected.
Really?
Yeah.
What were you expecting?
I have no idea, but I just
Yeah.
thought that, I had no
we just have fun and
and
just chat and see where the conversation takes us.
it's
And
really
today
good,
it's
really
went
easy,
well.
free flowing. It was good.
Yeah, love
Awesome.
it.
Thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to another Confessions of a Recruiter podcast with Blake and Declan. We hope you enjoyed and got a lot of value and insights out of this episode. If you do have any questions or you would like to recommend someone to come on the Confessions podcast, we would love any introductions. And remember the rule of the podcast: like, share, and recommend it to a friend. Until next time.